First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. The first endorsement that I received when I ran for the 19th Senate nomination of the Republican Party was not from Ken Cuccinelli, it was not from anyone else, it was from you. And I cannot tell you how proud I was to carry that nomination forward through the Republican nomination process, that endorsement, right there on November 23rd. I was proud of the other endorsements that I got, but I was most proud of that. The other thing that I was most proud of was the Richmond Times-Dispatch seemed to like to call me Tea Party favorite Bill Stanley.
Yeah.
Tea Party man Bill Stanley. And I was exceptionally proud of that as well. Somebody called me up, a friend of mine in Richmond, and said, "Oh, you're a Tea Party man." And I said, "Yes, I am." And I've spoken to this group before when I ran for 5th District Chairman. For those that I have not had the honor of meeting yet, my name is Bill Stanley, as they've said. I started out, of course, I'm the son of a naval aviator. I was born in Florida, moved to Virginia in 1975. Got very interested in politics at a very early age and was a grassroots volunteer. I was a Republican since the age of 9, I like to say, because I cried when Ford lost to Carter. And so I knew I was a Republican at that point in time. But I worked for the party, worked on the outside just as a grassroots volunteer for a very long time. And when I moved to Franklin County, we had a very Democrat county out there. We had a Democrat sheriff, Democrat Commonwealth's attorney, and of course I didn't like that, so we ran a Republican, and as I've been told, sometimes Virgil Good likes to jokingly say, we elected in 2007 the first Republican sheriff in Franklin County since Reconstruction, which is saying something. But from that, I became the chairman of the GOP committee there in Franklin County. Some of you might know that at one point in time we had a chairman of the Republican Party, very conservative, very good man named Jeff Frederick. Jeff Frederick was chairman for a while, and there were those inside the party that believed that Jeff Frederick was not the proper chairman. And so when they and the members of the State Central Committee attempted to, and they were eventually successful by 1 vote to impeach him, I stepped forward and volunteered to represent him based on principle. People told me at that time that was political suicide. What are you doing? Not that I had any political aspirations at that time, but I stepped forward because I simply believed that it was wrong. That it was wrong what they were doing this man, and what he was trying to do to the Republican Party, which was to transform it, to bring it back to the grassroots level, was important. That the party didn't emanate from the top down, but from the bottom up. That we, the volunteers, were the most important people. Because not only were we the voters, we were the ones that made the difference. We knocked on the doors. We made the phone calls. We stood outside those cold November days in the wind, and we handed out those sample ballots. And you know, when the establishment, they call it the Republican establishment, and there is a Republican establishment, when they would come to us conservatives and they would ask us to work, sometimes they would tell us not what to do, not wanting our opinions. And I don't think that's the right way to run any party. And so at a point in time after, of course, Jeff was impeached and replaced, I got angry and I ran for Republican Party chairman. I came in 3rd. Of course, there were only 2 people running at that time. Very proud of that. But I believe that you stood on principle, that you had to stand on principle, or otherwise our Republican Party would be in trouble. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was telling you this kind of stuff because that was before the start of the Tea Party movement. And you know, if you look at the Republican Party, part of the reason why we have a Tea Party movement is because the Republican Party had lost its way. And I think we're moving in the right direction to regain the core principles that is the conservative movement of the Republican Party. The Republican Party stands for conservative principles. You have them up here. You make them a part of your trademark here, and these are things that, quite frankly, if the Republican Party had steadfastly held on to these 3 principles and other conservative principles, there might not have been a need for a Tea Party. But of course, when a lot of times politicians go to Richmond or they go to Washington, D.C., they become almost indistinguishable from the other party. They become inside the beltway mentalities. And believe me, at one time I lived in Fairfax, just outside the beltway, never inside. Went to the District of Columbia School of Law, and I would run to the metro as soon as I got done with class so I could get back to the outside of the beltway. But that's what happened to our party. And I think fundamentally what we're seeing is a struggle of that in between. I ran for 5th District Chairman, was elected. I want to thank all of you who participated because you saw a fundamental transformation that started on December 11th of last year when we, the members of the 5th District Committee, when I was just GOP chairman in Franklin, came together in Appomattox to vote on convention or primary. At that point in time, we conventioneers, I voted convention, thought we were entitled to pick our nominee. At that point in time, the establishment did not, and primary was voted on. Thereafter, I know members of this Tea Party, Lynchburg Tea Party, and other members of Tea Parties in the 5th District stood firm together and made fundamental changes at the mass meetings that then occurred, bringing new chairmen, new conservative chairmen into the local level GOPs. We had 11 change hands, which would have been exactly the vote of those people that voted for primary, the ones, and they, people say, oh, Tea Party targeted them. Well, quite frankly, I didn't think that they represented the people that they went to Appomattox to represent. No one that I talked to ever told me that their committee said they wanted a primary. But yet they voted for primary because somebody else upstairs told them to. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we did in the 5th District in just a short period of time, and we still have more work to do, and I stand here not just as a candidate of the 19th Senate District, but also of the 5th District Chairman. We were able to build a grassroots organization from the bottom up. And what we were able to do, with Robert Hurt as our nominee, is turn out 55% of the vote. 55%. We had the highest voting turnout in the 5th District, right here, in the United States. We had a person in the name of Tom Perriello who did not listen to us the grassroots, us just the regular citizenry. He spent almost $3.5 million for his re-election bid. And because of you, and because of conservatives and new activists who joined the Republican Party, based on the new movement inside the Republican Party, we made him, you made him, one-term Tommy. Thank you. Thank you. So part of me stands here today as a candidate in the 19th District, and I'll talk briefly about what I believe the vision for Virginia should be, and especially taking our country back also includes making sure we take and hold our Commonwealth back. But quite frankly, when I look out here, I'm so happy that you all have been the new activists and been a part of not only an independent movement, which as some Republicans think you should be absorbed by the party. I am not one of those that subscribes to that. I believe quite the opposite. That someone out there, some group out there, some movement out there, such as yours, must hold the Republican Party accountable.
We will.
I'm going to run to my car after this. So you have to, and I think it's imperative that we get back to what we were really founded upon, not only the founders' visions, but also the conservative vision that the Republican Party was started on. Do not forget one thing. The Republican Party started out like the Tea Party. It was formed against tyranny in 1854. It was formed for the reason that government oppression of slaves and the South's stranglehold on politics and on government. And so the movement that you see now, quite frankly, is a movement I think not only will endure, but also will change the face not only of politics, but of our great nation. Somebody finally woke up and said, whoa, we're going down a path that is unsustainable debt. We're going down a path where we're forgetting liberty, we're forgetting freedom, individual determination. And that's what, as Jefferson said when the Constitution was written, that vigilance is the eternal price of liberty. So it is incumbent upon you that you never forget that for what you stand for, as much as you now adopt bylaws, as you formalize what you're doing into this movement. Don't forget what your purpose is, because we in the Republican Party that were on the outside with you and are now have climbed over the wall of Jericho, we won't either. Someone just recently, after I was elected, it might have been Mark Lloyd, called me the establishment. And he couldn't get out of the parking lot because his tires were flat after that. I don't admit that I did it. But quite frankly, sometimes we have to realize that when you become a member of a local committee, not just this Tea Party unit here, but also a local GOP committee, that you're now not following along just like a lemming, that your voice is most important to make sure that not only that unit is held accountable, but also that we recruit good candidates, good conservative candidates that believe as you do in limited government and fiscal responsibility at every level. And ladies and gentlemen, in 2011, the 5th District is going to be rolling out a new aggressive agenda to try to capitalize on what has happened this past year. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, don't you feel like you personally took the speaker's gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand? I think they should have a video game of that, just, you know. And you did. And you did. But there's much more work to do. This was an off-year election. Of course, 2012 was around the corner, but 2011 is most important. And I would say to you this. We have local elections coming up. Local elections at every level. School board, board of supervisors, town councils, commonwealth's attorneys, sheriffs, House of Delegates, state senators. It is your opportunity to grow the new conservatives in your area. It is your opportunity to make a difference, because really, it's very truthful when anyone says that politics is local. And you see and you feel that power now, don't you? And I think you can find, maybe in this room, maybe I'm looking at the next Board of Supervisors member here in Campbell County. You can find within yourself people that will represent you well. So maybe someday, but I don't think it will, that we won't have to have a Tea Party movement. But because they adhere to the tenets and to the principles that we hold so dear in government, and that they're self-accountable. We don't have to hold their feet to the fire. I may be dreaming. I may be hallucinating, quite frankly. But I think that's what we strive for. So what you've got coming up in 2011 is so important. Do not take this momentum and let it go. You have to take this momentum and build on it and make something even bigger. These are more seats. There are more opportunities for us to bring conservatism to the local level, and I ask for your help to do that. Now, also, I want to thank you for your turnout here in Campbell County, those who voted for me in Campbell County. Not only was it an overwhelming victory, I got 72% of the vote here in Campbell County, so thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and we were driving back from Rocky Mount. I was working the polls there. It was kind of cold, and first reports we got back from Campbell County. And you know, when you run for something, you just don't know. There's no way to gauge. And when I got the Campbell County reports, I immediately smiled and thought this might be okay. So I was very grateful for all of your help. I'm grateful to Speaker Vance Wilkins for standing out there in the cold, and not just standing out there in the cold, but that he had to stand next to Mark Kevin Lloyd and do this for 4 hours. I mean, that's something right there. But
actually, Mark was sitting.
Was he sitting the whole time? Well, so, you know, why run for the 19th Senate seat? Well, I was approached by King Cuccinelli and other people when the Robert Hurt race was going on. We'd organized a very good grassroots effort for Robert. It looked like a pretty strong victory, and I was asked to consider it by a number of people because I think it's important that we keep the 19th Senate seat in conservative hands. Right now, if you look at the number in the Senate, it's 22 to 18. We have 40 senators, and we have 18 Republicans. That's counting Robert Hurt right now, and 22 Democrats. It's Democratic controlled. We have an overwhelming majority of Republicans and conservatives in the House of Delegates, but the Senate is controlled by Democrats. If we're to lose this seat in the special election January 11th, there is absolutely little to no chance that we'll be able to take over and put conservatives in the Senate to where there would be a conservative majority in 2011. So this seat is absolutely critical that we hold on to it. One of the second reasons that I'm running is that I think it's about time that a politician make an absolute pledge. My absolute pledge to you, as it has been since I started running, is this: I will never, ever vote for any bill or any measure that will raise your taxes.
Say it again.
I will never, ever. I do hereby solemnly swear. I will never. And I think it's about time. You know, the acronym of the Tea Party, Taxed Enough Already, applies to states as well.